Hello, Steve Mills here, and welcome to my podcast. It's great to be back talking to you and sharing with you some more tried, tested and proven ways to grow your business. Now, those of you who know me will know I talk a lot about generating leads. How do you get more leads and where do you get them from? And, you know, as a marketing person, I spend a lot of my time, a lot of my life either helping people to get leads by physically doing the work or advising them and training them in how to do so. But the truth is, you know, there are many different elements to a lead. You know, there's the number of leads you get. That's obviously critical to your business. There's the quality of the leads that you get. There's the conversion rate of those leads and also the value of those leads. Now, I'm joined today by a very good friend of mine called Jackie Jarvis. Jackie and I have known each other for many years. We've worked together on several things. I've been on Jackie's workshops. She's been on my workshops. We've done joint workshops. And Jackie runs a marketing business. She also is an expert in the area of what she calls natural selling. She's as I said, you know, very big in the marketing side, very big at helping people with business development, but also I'd say one of her real key skills is helping people to increase sales, other words known as converting more of those leads into sales. So welcome to the conversation, Jackie, and thank you ever so much for being here today.
Hi, Steve. Thanks very much for having me. It's really nice to see you. Thank you.
It's my pleasure, my pleasure. So let's kick off by just telling everybody listening, what is natural selling and what's it all about?
Well, natural selling really is a method that I believe is the most authentic and natural and the best way in which both buyers and sellers can be comfortable. I think a lot of people, especially small business owners that we both work with, if they don't see themselves as a salesperson, they can sometimes feel quite uncomfortable about selling.
Yeah.
Sales is a bit of a dirty word. It's something that they don't want to appear salesy or pushy. And actually that can completely put them off doing it or doing it very well. So natural selling really is a method that I devised to help people who generally don't see themselves as salespeople, but actually need to be able to sell well to convert their leads into clients. So it's a method that everybody would feel comfortable with. It's a way of being completely and utterly yourself, operating out of a relaxed place, an authentic, values-based place, that will feel completely and utterly natural to both you and the person you're selling to.
Fantastic. Yeah. I've got to say, I totally agree with you, Jackie. You know, I see, like you do, lots of different business owners, and some of them very proudly tell me, well, I'm not a salesperson, you know, I'm not. And, you know, I say, well, you know, you've got to become one. You've got, you know, if you look at all the skills that we need in business, you know, one of the key skills, if you're serious about growing your business, you got to become good at selling. You know, how else are you going to grow your business? You hear me talk a lot. There's only two ways of creating more profit. One is to reduce your costs, which you can do instantly, but the problem being you've only got so much you can reduce. And the other is to increase sales. And to do that, you've got to be good at selling. And, you know, I think that's so important.
Well, that's it, Steve. And I think that, you know, the people that we work with, you're doing a lot of work to help generate good quality leads, and that's key.
Yeah.
Also, everybody has to go out and meet a client. You know, they have to be able to communicate well. They have to be able to get across their proposition, and they have to be able to convert that person they've just met into a long-term happy client. And that actually is selling, sadly.
It absolutely is, isn't it?
Sadly, the word is selling. So,
yeah.
But if people can feel that they are able to do that by just being themselves with a structure and with a process, it can avoid some of the serious mistakes that I've seen many business owners make that have lost probably thousands and thousands of pounds sales revenue.
Yeah.
Preventing sales happening.
Yeah.
I could share a few of those if you like.
Yeah. We were just talking, weren't we, before we came on air about the sales prevention department. You know, there's the reasons why sales don't happen that sometimes should happen. So, okay, so tell everybody then, what do you think are the sort of main reasons why the small business clients that we work with are not creating those additional thousands and thousands, or sometimes hundreds of thousands of pounds of lost leads, if you will?
Yeah, well, I'll give you sort of 4 examples, which I think kind of illustrate, just how many mistakes can be made. I mean, they're not always obvious, and I think a lot of people are quite unaware of what it is that they're doing that's actually preventing a sale happening. I'll just give you one example. Somebody that I know very well has got a great proposition. It's visionary idea. It's based basically a proposition for accountants.
Okay.
The guy himself is full of energy. He's really good at building rapport. He's the kind of person that you'd probably like to do business with. But the problem is he's got an engineering background and he just talks too much. And he goes into so much detail that actually what happens is his proposition is difficult to understand. And so therefore, because it's difficult to understand, a confused buyer will usually say no. So he found that his sales cycle was taking an incredibly long length of time to close, mainly because people took so long to understand what it was that he was actually trying to get across, despite the fact that what he has to offer actually works and is a good proposition. I know that that's one fairly typical mistake, that the proposition description is unstructured and the person has gone into too much detail and they haven't got across the key messaging.
Yeah. I recently bought some software, and one of the big problems I had in terms of buying it was understanding exactly what I was buying. And the guy who was trying to sell it me was trying, he was using terms that it was like, just straight over my head. I just didn't understand what he was talking about. And when you don't understand, you don't buy, do you? It's almost as simple as that. Okay.
Absolutely. And then another good example, I've got 4 examples here for you.
Okay, fantastic.
An FD, a financial director, again, it's super intelligent guy, really good at rapport building, very professional, really nice, well-paced, clear in his communication. But one of the things that he was finding, he wasn't closing. Okay. And I did a little bit of digging and diving to find out what he was actually doing. And what he was doing was every time he went in to see a client, he wasn't asking any questions or listening. He just dived straight into the pitch. So he bypassed any form of understanding of what was important to the client, understanding their pain. So, of course, he couldn't position his proposition. He just used to go in there and then he would find he'd be dealing with all sorts of objections. He couldn't understand why he wasn't getting to the close quicker. Right,
yeah. I think the old sales term, you've got... 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you should use them in that ratio is exactly right. And I'm sure you've heard that many times, Jackie, and endorsed that yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, and another example is a chap that I've been doing some coaching with he sells immigration and visa services. And again, a very gentle person, absolutely knew his stuff. Could probably answer anyone's question, really super, wanted to do a good job. But what was happening to his sales conversations was that he was getting incoming inquiries.
Okay.
So fantastic, didn't even have to cold call for leads. So getting leads coming in.
Great.
And all he was doing was answering questions as opposed to having any form of control over the conversation. And so what was happening to him, he was just answering questions and becoming an advice line. So all his sales proposition was, hello, what questions do you have? I'll answer them. And then it went nowhere. So because he didn't have control over that conversation, it just didn't turn into anything.
Yeah.
And able to sell the value of the service that they're offering, and we managed to totally transform that.
Yeah, I got to say on that one, Jackie, that I've been guilty on that. I think I'm so keen on trying to help people that I get involved in conversations, and I finish up giving away. In that initial sales meeting,
Yeah.
I can sometimes be guilty of saying, "Well, what you need to do is this and that," and and if you do that, that'll and by the time I've sort of, they've gone away with like loads of things that they've got to do, and I've never got round to selling them anything,
Exactly.
So I absolutely have fallen for that one on many, many occasions.
Yeah, it's amazing what a sort of lack of, people think they're being natural, but actually the thing about natural selling is that if you are just completely natural, like your natural style is to give it all away.
Uh-huh.
And the same as the chap I've just spoken to you about.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's important to be natural, but that naturalness needs to have a structure.
Yeah.
And I'll come to my last one, which is somebody that just says, the problem is, Jackie, I don't have any opportunity radar. So the guy's actually very good at asking questions,
Okay.
pretty good at listening, and pretty good at talking about his proposition. But sadly, he just didn't seem to have that ability to pick up what was important to the client.
Okay.
And it's a bit like you might be able to ask questions and listen, but if you're not actually picking up on what's important to the individual or picking up on the motivation, or you're then still not able to really tailor your communication. And he freely admitted to just for some reason not being able to pick up on the signals, so he wouldn't be able to upsell, cross-sell,
Okay.
or develop that relationship in any way, because he would just he would go through the motions of a sale,
Yeah.
but not have the ability to pick something up. So we had to teach him what he was actually listening for,
Okay.
and what he needed to pick up on
Yeah.
to be able to develop that conversation.
Okay, great. Okay, fantastic. So we got 4 reasons. Obviously, there are many, many reasons, and if we had time, no doubt you could share another 20 reasons why sales don't happen. I would like to just come in with one thing that I see so often, and that is this. I go into businesses. And, they'll say to me, marketing's not working, we're not getting enough sales in, and, we're not getting enough leads, we're not converting them. And I say to them, so, how many calls did you make yesterday? And they very, very rarely at that point give me a number. They say things like, well, I was busy yesterday. I had to write a report, and we needed to do a bit of bookkeeping, and I had a problem with a client, and so on and so forth. And I say to them, I think really we've discovered the root of the problem here in this business already, and so what I'm saying here is actually not getting on, not following up, not getting on the phone and following those leads up. I see that so many times. When I got a client who last week he did an exhibition, spent several £100 a day out at the exhibition, put a load of effort in. I spoke to him today. Have a guess how many of those people he'd followed up, Jackie?
Probably none.
None at all. And why? Because he'd been busy, and he hadn't done it, So I give him, a bit of a telling off in a nice way, and a bit of a motivational talk to get him to get on there and get selling. Because the old saying is, another day older is another day colder, and
Well, the thing is,
it's so true.
That's absolutely right. But the thing is with follow-up, is that, one, you have to be organised, but 2, quite often people who don't like selling, who don't feel comfortable with it, think that follow-up is pushy. But actually, follow-up is essential. People value follow-up.
It's part of the customer service, I think. If you make an inquiry to me and I don't follow you up, am I doing a good job or a bad job? I think I'm doing a terrible job. You're interested. I want to help you. And I can't even be bothered phoning you up to to explain what I can do and to find out what you need. So brilliant. Okay, so next thing I want to ask you, Jackie, is a little bit about this natural selling, your system, the key elements. What is the process? You've mentioned several times they've got to have a structure to it, and a line to get them from, somebody who's been to the website, they've had a nosy round, they've made an inquiry, and from at that point you could say, well, that is now a lead. And so what's your structure to turn that tentative inquiry into £100,000 sale or whatever that may be? Yeah.
Okay. So, basically, what I'll do on this, in this conversation, I'll explain, the 6-step, what I call natural sales conversation structure.
Perfect.
And why all the elements are important. And if you remember the mistakes that I explained to you earlier, some of the mistakes that people make, these mistakes could disappear using this structure.
Okay.
So the ones that I explained to you, just giving you an example of someone diving straight into the pitch, not asking enough questions, not picking up on opportunities, etc. So any of these difficulties will just disappear using this structure.
Okay, brilliant.
So basically, it starts off with step 1, which you'll recognise. Very first thing that's important in sales. It doesn't matter whether this is a sales conversation over the phone, it could be over a garden hedge, it could be in a cafe, it could be in an office. The actual location doesn't matter. It's the principles of this method that make the difference. And the first thing that's important is what I call connection, which is all about rapport, isn't it? It's all about people make a decision about people fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And, you need to be very good at building that initial connection with whoever it is that you're meeting.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
So that's step 1. And then, importantly, once you've built that connection needs to continue all the way through that relationship. So the next thing that you need to do is to set up what we call the exploration, which is the opportunity to ask questions. So once you've built rapport initially, you need to then set up, is it okay, in order to gain control over the conversation, you need to be the person asking the questions. So the exploration phase is all about asking the right questions to uncover what the client's needs, pain and desires may be. So again, that phase will need quite a lot of thinking through to make sure that you're not just asking any question, you're asking questions that are going to actually uncover elements of what ultimately you've got to offer the client.
Okay. Yeah.
When you've asked the questions, the next phase, which a lot of people miss out, is to show the client that you've actually understood what they've said to you. So you need to repeat back to the client in a summary the things that they've said matter to them.
Good one. Yeah.
And again, that's a bit of an art to do that well, because if you do it well, you'll get the client saying yes. And that's quite important as you go through any sales conversation, is you want to hear the word yes. And the sooner you get the word yes, the more you realise that you're actually on the journey to a conversion.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so that's step 4, is that Jackie?
No, we're on with number 1 is connection, which is rapport.
Yeah.
Number 2 is exploration, which is questions and listening.
Okay.
Number 3 is summary.
Yeah.
And then number 4 is once you've summarised, you've actually created a bit of an agenda for your positioning of your proposition or service.
Okay.
So we call step 4 the solution match.
Okay.
So we're calling it solution match because you're actually matching what you've got with what the person wants.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So if you remember the example I gave with the guy that just talked endlessly and confused the client, if you actually cherry pick the things and the messages and the value that you've got to offer and match that exactly with what the client's looking for, you're going to make a much better connection with that client.
Okay, great.
So in the solution match will be all the various elements. There's maybe a small agenda of things that you would go through, what you offer, what value you offer, the benefits, how you work. You may share success stories. So there'll be a whole number of things that you would explain during that section. But it's called the solution match, and that's the key. You're matching what you're offering with what the client wants. Okay? And then as you go through that phase, you're gaining agreement. So you're watching body language, you're seeing how the client is paying attention, and you're seeing whether or not the solution that you're explaining is actually fitting or hitting the mark.
Okay, great.
And then once you've presented your proposition, whatever it is that you're selling to the client, you then move round to what we call the value agreement, which is all about positioning the price, because at some point you've got to discuss the price. A lot of people feel quite uncomfortable about discussing the price.
Sure.
But if you've gone to that phase and you've got the client interested, connected with what you've presented, it should be quite easy to discuss how the price and the value match together. So when you're communicating the price, you're actually explaining again the value that client may gain from the solution that you're offering.
Okay, good. Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, and then as you move through that phase, you come round to the final phase, which is called close. And closing really is about, it's not just about necessarily closing the sale, it might be closing it to the next step. So it might be agreeing a date for a further meeting if that's appropriate. It might be agreeing the content of a proposal. It might be agreeing some follow-up. I might be agreeing the sale, depending on what you're selling and what your own sales process is. So the step at the end, which is step 6, is a close, which means that you walk away from that meeting with either a date in the diary, a follow-up date, an agreed date for a telephone call, or an agreed date to actually start the project.
Joe, I think what you said there is so incredibly important, and I see so often people come away from meetings without, there's a potential follow-up. Well, I'll produce a proposal and then get it over to you. That's I think it's just too loose. I'm going to write a proposal. I'll have it finished by Wednesday. I'd like to meet you on Thursday in order to discuss the proposal. And the more specific, the more committed you can get people at that point, I think the better. Because we've sorry to interrupt there. We've all done proposals, and then when you send the proposal, you phone them up and they say, "Well, I've not had a chance to read it yet. Give me a call next week." And you call next week, and well, I've still not read it. I've been busy. Oh, can we make it? Give us a call in the new year. And the whole thing just sort of, I don't know, dissipates into oblivion. And that's because they've not tied down. They've not closed them on the fact that they're going to meet. You're going to meet again on Tuesday to discuss the proposal or whatever that may be.
No, that's right. And I think a lot of sales need to be closed. However, they almost need to be guided to that close, because I think we called it natural selling, and a lot of people that don't like selling don't feel comfortable closing.
Yeah.
But I found I've made it sound really simple, the 6 steps, but actually there's quite a lot of depth behind each step, because if you think through each step and you get your questioning right, if you understand how to pick up on the motivations and values and nuances of someone's communication style, you get your summary right.
Yeah.
If you then have really thought through how you're going to communicate your proposition, you don't waffle, you don't go into too much detail, you actually nail the key messages. You can show a visual that explains exactly how you work. You know what you're selling. You know what your packages are. You've put a lot of work into that. And then when you get round to the pricing, you've thought through your pricing. You know how to explain it. You know what value the client's getting. You can connect that with the kind of value they've explained they're looking for. When you get to the close, it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy and also if you take everything that you've learned on that journey and put it into a proposal, the proposal will be designed to motivate the client to say yes, as opposed to some proposals, which, really, to be fair, it's not surprising that some people don't win the business from some of the proposals that I've seen. I mean, there's some very simple techniques that I teach people to use. You know, it's very simple, using the stuff that comes out of the exploration in the proposal, but written in a certain way. The client then hears their own words coming back to them.
Yeah.
And then
Sure.
if you actually get a date in the diary for the follow-up,
Yeah.
the person is looking forward to that follow-up. You should have someone at the end. When you think about it, we're not trying to push something on someone.
No.
Natural selling is actually about helping someone make a decision,
Yeah.
and make a decision that's right for them.
Yeah.
And you know, the people that I introduced you to, the FD, you know, the immigration guy, the marketing person, and the ISO person that I was talking about earlier,
Yeah.
they're all professional people. They don't see themselves as salespeople. But if they don't successfully sell their service, they don't have any business, you know, because they're running their own businesses, and they have to convert clients. They have to meet with clients, and they have to convert them.
Yeah.
So that if, you know, they were losing so much business just from stupid things that they were doing that they didn't realise they were doing.
Yeah.
When they learnt this natural structure, it completely transformed how they're doing things.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. I think, you know, one of the problems that we all have to realise, I think, because you and I are into sales, and we're into marketing, and we're into business development and business growth, it's sometimes difficult to realise, you know, that a lot of business people have come from a background of doing what they do. You know, the landscape gardener sets up his own landscape gardening business. The accountant opens his own accountancy practice. The hairdresser opens up her own hairdressing salon.
Yeah.
Believe him, because they've got really good skills in those key areas, that they can run a business that does the work. And as if you know of Michael Gerber and the E-Myth, one of the things he says is it's just not true. Because you're a really good hairdresser, cutting hair is totally different than running a business that cuts hair.
Yes.
And you know, you've got to have those skills in sales and marketing, as well as finance and all the HR and, you know, everything else that we need to do in running a business. So okay, so we're going to just sort of wrap things up a little bit here, Jackie. So I wanted to ask you if you could tell the listeners today, what should they do if they want to know more from you, they want to work with you, and they want your help? What should they do?
Okay, well, I offer this help in a number of different ways. If you're a small business and you'd like to learn my natural stress-free selling methodology, I actually have an online training course in 2 parts. Part 1 is preparing to sell the natural way, and part 2 is actually how to have the natural sales conversation. And that's a low-cost way of someone getting access to 10 video-based lessons with exercises and a private Facebook group. And if anyone's interested in finding out a bit more about that, I can certainly email a link with all the details. So if you just email me at jackie@jackiejarvis.co.uk. That's jackie@jackiejarvis.co.uk. And in support of that, I'm very happy to look at doing one-to-one sales coaching. And again, you know, send me an email and we can have a conversation about what it is that you're finding difficult and what help you think you might need. So you can book an initial complimentary consultation with me, and I can explore exactly how I could help. So that's the second method. And I've also got a book. So if anybody wants to read a book, I'll go to Amazon or one of the bookshops, and it's called Quick Wins in Sales and Marketing. And that's my book. And that would be another way of getting some help from me. So on the sales help, it's the Natural Stress-Free Selling course, one-to-one sales coaching, or my book. And if you want to have a look at my website, it's www.jackiejarvis.co.uk.
Fantastic, Jackie. Thank you ever so much for your insights. Thanks for sharing your experience and for your time in being here. You know, I think online training these days is a fantastic opportunity. You know, for years I've been traveling, you know, almost all over the world, you know, getting training, and now I can sit down in my home or in my office, and I can learn from leading experts, and I can learn when I like, as often as I like. I can learn in chunks. One of the big ones is being able to listen to it again. It sometimes takes my sort of pea-sized brain or something. You know, I need to listen again and again and again. I call my car, I think I've said this to you, Jackie, I call my car a university on wheels, because I listen. You know, I used to listen to cassettes. Yes, I am that old. And then it was CDs, and now I've got my mobile with podcasts and so on and so forth. And we can listen to people in what I call net time, which stands for no extra time. You know, and I think online is a fantastic way of doing that. Or, you know, go, as Jackie said, go and buy the book. Go and buy a load of books. Buy Jackie's book. Buy my book if you want. But I think, you know, one thing I know about successful people is they're all well read. You know, they have lots of books. As I sit in my office right now, I can see probably about 30 or 40 business books that I've actually read. This is not shelf development. This is self-development. You know, there's a big difference. A lot of business books are bought and they're not read. You know, and it's so important to read. So thank you ever so much. Going to finish now. If you want to hear anything from me, if I can help, you need some help generating those leads for Jackie to help you convert them, then you can get hold of me on 01256 242 272. If you want advice, go to stevemills.co. If you want anybody to do the work for you in terms of marketing, then go to theprudentmarketer.com. Thank you ever so much for listening, and we look forward to sharing some more ideas with you in the not too distant future. Thank you very much.